Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome back to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Tom Rayleigh. The scenario is Mr. Corbitt. It was written by Michael DeWolf, and it appears in Mansions of Madness. It's one of my favorite scenarios, and this will be the third time I've run it. I am the Game Master, and this is episode 3. So without any further delay, let's continue our journey into the darkness. Okay, so short recap. From your perspective, some of you saw Mr. Corbitt walk towards Will's house. You know there seems, I'm not Will's house, Survey's house. You know that something happened last night. Some of you might know what it is. You definitely saw Survey brought home in the police car. Corbitt went over there to talk to him about something. You then saw maybe 10 or 15 minutes later, Corbitt leave the house and come walking back. If you were paying attention, he looked a little upset or agitated about his meeting with Survey. He got, just about the time he got back to his house and walked inside, you suddenly heard yelling and screaming coming from down by Survey's house. And then Survey ran out into the street. His wife was yelling after him. He ran, he tore off all of his clothes, ran to the end of the street and collapsed. He was shaking and violently moving around on the street. By that point, you probably had all come to your front doors and stepped out onto your porches to see what was going on. And that's where we will start.
Oh my, Jacobus, is that Survey's?
Can't be. Goodness me. My goodness. Russia, let's come. Let's see what's going on.
Yes.
Oh bordel, qu'est-ce que c'est cette magie?
Marta, call the police. Something's going on with Survey. I don't think you should. Yes, call the local precinct. They'll know where to find his house.
You see Corbitt's door open, and he comes out onto the front porch, and he's looking around. And now, like I say, Survey has run down to the end of the street. So he looks over and he sees him, and he comes running off of his porch, going towards Survey. What's happened? He yells.
He collapsed.
His wife is probably coming out running towards him too.
Has he gone away from all the other houses? Did Survey's go away from all the other houses?
I suppose the closest, who he's closest to would be, let's see.
Eugene.
Probably Horatio, because he's run past all of your houses. So he's kind of between Horatio's and Jacobus's house, having run past everybody else's.
And
so Jacobus will,
go ahead.
Jacobus will run closer and bend down to see if he can check Survey's vitals.
Do a spot hidden.
I'm going to take my jacket off and use it as a pillow and put it under his head.
That's a pass.
Okay. Looking into his face, Survey's expression is one of absolute insane, crazed horror. You know, his eyes are wide open. His tongue is lolling out. It looks like he may have even scratched himself in places as he was lying on the floor, but he has stopped moving. You don't get any pulse. And as you're doing that, Mr. Corbitt comes running up and he says, "What's happened?" And he kneels down next to Survey's head and puts his hand here to feel for anything.
I'm not sure what's happened, but I think I'll look up at his wife and say, I'm sorry, Chama.
She's like, "What happened? He's gone completely crazy. He started yelling things at me, and as I came towards him, he backed away and acted like I was some sort of monster. And then he ran out into the street.
And as I come up, I've been collecting his discarded clothing on the way, expecting that, his privacy will be important, not realizing that it won't be important any longer. How much has he managed to tear off?
Oh, he tore off his shirt. He took off his pants. He's probably got his underwear on. So,
one sad sock.
And Corbitt says he was acting so strangely in the last day.
Yes. I'm going to take his wife and lead her back toward their house, explaining that we've called the ambulance services and that
she's pretty she doesn't want to leave him, but you can pull her 10 feet away and stand next to her, and she's wringing her hands.
Does he smell of booze?
Oh yeah, he does. Definitely smells like he's been drinking. Do any of you have medical?
Yes.
I'm gonna get closer.
Oh, that's right. You're a pharmacist.
To make sure everything goes well, but except that, no, I don't have.
I only have first aid.
Well, you have
pharmacy or
pharmacy.
chemistry.
Why don't you do
I do.
pharmacy?
Yeah, let's have a. Oh, nice. So that is a hard.
Hard pass. Okay, so you're looking at him and sort of half examining him. There's something that bothers you. There's little capillaries in his eyes that are, bright red, and there seem to be like a few little bumps around his mouth. To you, that would indicate like something pharmacological, like he's drunk something or
Maybe allergic to
himself
something.
or allergic to something. Yeah.
I'll get up and then walk towards Peter and Savai's wife. So did he what was he drinking beforehand? Was he allergic to something?
She's like, no, I don't know that he was allergic to anything, but he's been drinking all morning. He was upset about something, but he wouldn't tell me what. We were fighting about it before he flipped out.
And Talma, did you serve anything to him and Mr. Corbitt when Corbitt visited?
No, I went into the kitchen and started cleaning, but they were talking, and I could hear him getting agitated. So I came out, and I was just sort of supervising what was going on. Mr. Corbitt seemed like he was being very cordial and trying to. They had some sort of disagreement. She doesn't seem to know. And then he kind of chased Mr. Corbitt out, or just was unresponsive, and Mr. Corbitt left. And then maybe a minute or two went by, and he became very angry and started throwing things and yelling, and that's.
And he hasn't had an attack like this before.
No, but he did leave the house very early this morning. Like at 4 a.m.
Corbitt's reaction to Marta's narrative?
He's quietly listening, and he's looking concerned. And about that time is when you hear the policeman coming. And your wife, Peter, probably called an ambulance as well.
Mm-hmm.
which
So
I
Peter,
checked.
let's get this poor lady inside, and
So
it's enough to visualize all of this horror. Let's get inside.
So the ambulance comes and takes him to the hospital just to see if there's anything. There's first one policeman and then two, and then a detective shows up. Let's say Detective Harold Whitfield, and he wants to talk to you all about what you saw or what happened. So we'll assume he talks to his wife first. And then he probably comes to your house, each of you, one at a time, and asks questions. Let's do it. Let's just do it a little different. Okay, go ahead.
Before we leave the house, I would like to, first off, I would like to see what Survey was drinking. Maybe just look at sniff at the glass. If there's anything that comes up, something like that. Presumably won't be able to take the glass. But yeah, I'd like to do that for now.
Well, the detective is like, do you have any expertise in the field? You're a pharmacist?
Yeah, I've got chemistry.
Well, yes. Let's see if we don't have those kind of facilities here in Arkham. Perhaps you can see if there's anything untoward in the residue, the glass.
All right. I'll just take a sniff at it just to see, and then also I want to note how many glasses were there? I mean, did Corbitt maybe share?
No, there were 2 glasses.
2 glasses.
Yeah. And you might as well take both of them, see if there's anything. Take the whiskey, it's in a decanter. The questions, do you know if Mr. and Mrs. Leroy fight a lot? I'm just going to ask you all in general.
There were the odd altercation, I would say. Ratio, would agree.
I suppose so. Surveys did like to drink, but
could you hear from your houses any altercation between them earlier?
Well, Detective, you know about what happened this morning, yes?
Yes,
regarding
I'm aware of that.
So there was, I think, considerable strife off and on in the aftermath of that. Of course, most of us weren't in the neighborhood during the day, but they are a bit of a ruckus couple. They're younger. He's an entertainer. They're I don't think they've ever been violent. I don't think that I think Talma seems very shocked by what has happened this evening, as are we all.
It wouldn't be the first time that a wife has poisoned her husband. We don't know that, but we have to explore every possibility.
Well, certainly, if you find anything in the glasses, you'll have.
He grills Mr. Corbitt pretty well. Why did you go over there? I went over there because of this breaking into my office. I wanted to know why he did it. I didn't want to be antagonistic about it, but I wanted to see if there was something wrong that I could fix. Have I offended him or something? He tells him about the raccoon traps and how he had been acting a little odd, over the last couple of days. He pretty much tells him exactly what you guys already, you players know. The characters don't really know. But he went in, he discussed the situation, didn't really get a resolution, and felt that Survey was a little too drunk to be coherent, and so he left. No sooner had he got home, he actually says that he walked into his kitchen. He was going to have a snack, and then he heard the noise in the front yard and ran back to see what was going on. Does anybody want to add anything to the details?
What I would say to the detective is that everything in this situation is new to me. I didn't knew that he potentially was like that. I know he was a bit about alcohol, but not always in moderation. I mean, to me, this doesn't make sense. And the reason why I didn't came close to him is because I saw that there was enough people to deal with it, and I don't have the skills to do, well, mostly anything in these situations.
I'm going to give Jacobus a sideways glance. I'm going to try and be subtle with it, and see if I catch Jacobus's eye and raise an eyebrow.
I'll listen to what everyone is saying, just looking at each of the people standing around. Then I'll probably notice Horatio looking at me. I'll move closer.
I don't want to say anything in front of the policeman.
Do you still have those papers you brought along? I think the detective here has got his hands full. It's quite terrible. I think I need a coffee.
Come over to my place. I'll get what's her name to not Geraldine, Josephine. Josephine. Thank you, Peter. I shall.
Yes. Let's. Gentlemen, anyone else like some coffee?
We'll just say at this point, the detective says, "Well, if you think of anything, call me."
Of course. When we're out of earshot from the detective, do you think we should mention the fish we saw?
No, I don't think so. We have no. I mean, we'll just sound silly, won't we?
I suppose so.
Welcome to, but I mean, it's been now 2-3 days since we saw that, and we really just saw something that easily be explained away. And yeah, I don't think so. But it's up to you.
I mean, we told the other chaps maybe it triggered something in Cervase's.
Well, that's a good point. Let's
actions.
Maybe we should take that up with his wife. Maybe mention something to her before we get the police involved.
Maybe you're right. This is all quite distressing.
Now, I assume the two of you have stepped to the side. You're doing this privately because Mr. Corbitt is still there with you.
Yeah, no.
This is just between me and Jacobus.
Coffee actually sounds rather nice.
Sure. I go inside and ask Josephine to put a fresh brew on.
To be perfectly honest, it's been a very strange day. It's just seems to be the very strange culmination of a very strange day.
Yeah, now it seems to me that perhaps, Survey had been unraveling for longer than we realized, and then it just escalated
Do you have any reason why he would have something against me? Did I not appreciate the raccoon traps as much as I should have? It sounds silly, but it's honestly all that I can think of.
So apologies for interrupting you, Mr. Corbitt, but you saying that survey broke your show window?
Well, it was a little sketchy, but I don't ever like to say anything bad about my neighbors. I'm loyal to you on your side before anybody else. But I was called in at 4 o'clock this morning to the police station. Somebody had broken the front window in my shop. And it turned out that it was Survey's assistant, the big one, and the assistant had been told by him to go break my window. I told the police that it must have been a misunderstanding. Please don't do anything to Survey. Just, let him go. If there's a problem, we'll work it out. I didn't know there was a problem, but like I said, very strange behavior for him.
Yeah, we didn't knew him like that.
Has he said anything to you that makes him angry at me?
No, not at all.
It's very strange. And then this, I think maybe he just snapped.
I didn't even know
which one of his. Sorry, you go, Peter.
I didn't even know that a man, a relatively young, relatively healthy man could die on the street, apparently in some sort of, frenzy of panic.
Well,
was it his heart in the end?
If I was going to make an educated guess, I would say he could have had an aneurysm or a stroke. Definitely, it looked like heart attack.
When Corbitt says this, is that what does that seem as if that's truly what he's thinking?
Do a psychology roll.
I'm going to spend 1 luck to pass.
Okay. Okay. What you get from him is that he believes what he is saying, but he believes what he is saying with conviction, like he knows all about these sort of things. Medical conditions and things like that.
So I'm thinking he did not notice the irritation on the lips, right? He must have missed that. That's what I'm thinking at this stage.
He might not have looked as closely as you did. He looked like he was trying to see if he could revive him, but there wasn't any point once he was dead.
Fair enough.
I don't think in the 20s they developed, advanced CPR techniques yet.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
a little later.
You
could actually bring somebody back. Yes, it was. I didn't see that there was anything that we could do for him at that point. Perhaps if he hadn't had such a strong episode, then we might have been able to hospitalize him. If he had gone to see a psychiatrist or a psychologist, maybe that would have helped him too, if there was something going on in his mind.
Perhaps maybe he had some underlying condition that was aggravated by the alcohol.
Alcohol, possibly. Oh, you've got the Jacobus. You have the alcohol there. You're going to test it.
Yes, I saw something on his lip that made me think that he might have had an allergic reaction. And since he was, according to his wife, only drinking, I thought I'll have a look at the contents of his glass
What if he
bottle.
wasn't?
Maybe.
What if he was doing something more than drinking and she wasn't aware of it? If you were to guess what kind of a drug would cause this sort of.
Well, from past experience, I can only think that it might have been some kind of, maybe he was smoking something. I don't know.
Opiate? Or,
Smell smoke on it.
Yeah.
In one Be-Driven, I many years ago, I read Confessions of an Opium Eater, and that, involved strange visions. And he's traveled a bit. Maybe he was ingesting something exotic.
He's been asking me lately about procuring certain items for him from India.
Yes, that's correct. He was quite adamant. One of his orders, I remember.
But, maybe I misunderstood what he was looking for. I thought he was looking for statuary, and he told me that he was looking for something with mystical properties, with real magic. Could he have actually been talking about drugs? Like, I don't know what comes from there. Opium, obviously. Morphine.
I didn't knew him like that, at least.
Well, I know it wouldn't have been cocaine. Get that anywhere.
Well, I do have a friend at the hospital. I'm pretty sure they will do an autopsy on him.
Well, it'll be interesting.
It's
It's very sad, though, that we've lost a friend from the neighborhood.
Yes, in Port Talma. I hope he left well provided for. I hope he had the sense to be insured and so on.
I hope so. He was an entertainer. I hope he has a big wad of cash lying around somewhere.
At least she must have some family that's around which would be able to assist.
Well,
oh my, it's become so clinical.
Thank you for the coffee. I think I'll go back.
Before you go, Bernard, I had prepared some papers on ancient Roman fertilizing techniques.
Really?
I was going to bring them over to you as an apology for tampering with your greenhouse the other day.
Oh, don't worry about that.
But
as I said, if you're curious about my greenhouse, I'd be glad to show you around.
Well, maybe when things have settled down here.
Of course.
I don't want to trouble you. But please take these papers. I hope they'll be of use to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
A real question. I know I already asked this question, but do I smell something specific or unusual on anyone here?
Do a smell secret. I mean, a spot.
Something. Smell,
hidden.
yeah. Oh, it's
We
a
really
two.
need
It's
smell hidden.
it's a critical.
A critical. I think the coffee overwhelms pretty much everything. Is there anything specific you were looking for?
A smell that I've never smelled in this place at any of my friends' houses.
No.
Nothing that
Nothing unusual smelling in here.
Nothing unusual.
So I'll take my leave and keep each other all posted on what we find out.
I'll walk you out, Bernard.
Of course.
I should get back to Marta. I'm sure she'll be on the phone actually with 18 girlfriends talking about the local scandal. But
what a horrible tragedy.
There's something that I didn't mention in front of the others because I didn't want to embarrass anybody. And I don't think it has anything to do with Surveyor's condition, except that it might have exacerbated his delusions since he seems to have been in some sort of decline.
Oh, tell me, please.
But last Sunday, when you came home from your drive,
Mhm.
he thought he saw you drop a parcel that he was convinced contained a human arm. I don't know where he thinks you would have gone to
What?
get. So I think that's what led to his. I think that's what the break-in was about, and I think that maybe is a sign of his increased disorder. But
I think I know what you're talking about. I do vaguely remember dropping something. When I go out on my drives, occasionally I stop and I walk through the woods, and I came upon some interesting fungus growing on some tree branches. I brought that home. It's stuff that I grind up. I think we had this discussion, didn't we, about mushrooms?
a bit, yeah, a
Yes.
bit.
Yeah.
An interest in mycology in general.
Yeah, I suppose that could have on the one end sort of looked like a hand.
Yeah, at a distance, and he was drinking on Sunday too when we were playing cards.
Well, he thought it was an arm.
He thought it. Yeah, he was quite. I mean, I wouldn't have said he was obsessed about it, but now that he's had your shop attacked and had this episode, it just seems like.
And he discussed it with all of you?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You should have just come ask me. I would have been able to show it to you.
Well, I mean, imagine when you're sitting at a card table and a friend and neighbor says, "Good heavens, our neighbor's, a cannibal," or whatever he thought. You don't march across the street and accuse your neighbor of many years. I mean, I collect your mail for you when you leave town. Like, we have an understanding and trust between us. So
You've been in my house. Does it look like I'm a cannibal?
it looks like you're a very tidy gentleman.
I would have to consult Eugene as to how to cook human arm. I have no idea.
Please, sir, we don't cook that
We're
kind
outside.
of thing in France. Sorry.
But you all know how to cook.
Yeah, if they can make frogs' legs edible, I suppose they can do something with a human arm. Anyway, so it just struck me that he's perhaps been having some strange ideas in general and strange ideas about you, and if it hopefully knowing that.
So his psychosis may go back farther than we thought.
That's what I'm thinking, and then last weekend he was merely having isolated confusions, and then it escalated so rapidly.
That's a terrible, terrible shame.
Yeah.
I suppose we'll have to have a funeral coming up within the next few days.
I mean, Talma will be figuring that out, I suppose. I'm gonna, if the detectives are done over there too, I think I'll send Marta over to advise her, because
It's a good idea.
yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I'll probably send Josephine over to help with Martha.
The ladies.
Talma, yeah.
Yeah, send the ladies over. Well, Bernard, have a good evening. I hope I'm gonna have a stiff scotch and go to bed early.
Yes. All right. You have a nice day, and you can't have a nice day, but
Quiet night.
I have to phone my office, tell them what's going on. All right. Good night.
Good night.
Can I retrospectively make a psychology roll on Bernard's behavior during this whole incident?
What are you looking
Right. I guess
for?
I should be doing that for that conversation too.
I'm still convinced he had. Personally, I'm still convinced that that it was an arm. I think
You're looking to see if he was disingenuous. You weren't there for this conversation.
No, I understand that.
But you were there for his conversation about survey.
Yeah, I'm I think I recall rolling an extreme spot hidden, so I'm pretty sure I saw what I saw. Uh, doubts running around in my head, suspicion.
Did you pass?
I haven't rolled yet. The psychology.
Go ahead. Yeah, roll your psychology.
By the time he rolls,
Just justifying the retrospective roll.
he rolls a check.
98.
I'm gonna send Maria later. I'm gonna send Maria later to his wife to potentially the coffins, things like that. I'm letting her do it because I'm a very bad salesman. Simply.
Yes, he seems completely sincere.
Yeah.
And Peter, what was your role?
I have a regular success for my psychology about the limb drop.
I'd say it's a weird way to put it, but he believes what he said.
Mm-hmm. And
there was some hesitation trying to remember what you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do we remember every time we drop something and pick it up?
Indeed.
No.
And I'm trying to think, I have a moderate 20 in natural world, and I'm also trying to think historically. Did we know about ergot in 1923? We didn't know about psilocybin.
If you had a botany background, you probably would know what it was.
How's my history? Yeah, my history and natural world are both only 20, so I think that's outside of my purview, really.
In other words, you're thinking that maybe some spoiled food might have tripped him out.
Yeah, if there could be a fungal involvement, but I just don't think that Peter Harrow has the background to even speculate. So
maybe you could talk to Jacobus about that. He is a pharmacist. So, all right. So Corbitt's back in his house, and you guys are all back together again, and the wives are all consoling.
So I brought up the child's arm. I blamed entirely on Survey so as not to have any lingering embarrassment. And he says that he picked up a forest branch with fungus on it. And it seemed like he was telling the truth. You were all the way across the street. You know, his lawn is several yards, mine's several yards, the streets, I
was thinking about, it's not the first time that he brought up the story that he was picking mushrooms. What kind of, and this may sound a little bit odd, but would you wrap a branch with fungus on it in brown paper? Would you make a package from that?
The thing, I wouldn't, but have you seen Corbitt's kitchen? I think every time he slices a piece of bread, he washes the table and the countertop and the knife. The man is so fastidious. So maybe he doesn't like bits of bark and fungus in the boot of his car.
That's possible. Sounds like the police has just gone.
Yes, they drove away.
I don't even hear it, of course.
Yeah, it's all baffling. I can't even believe that Survey would go through the length of getting one of his men to break the poor man's windows. It's literally crazy.
Yeah. Also, at the barbecue and at cards, he didn't drink excessively. He didn't get sloppy.
He was a smoker, but not a excessive drinker.
Yeah, so I don't know if maybe that was another symptom, some sort of I don't know. But it seems like he was really suffering from some much greater problem to behave like this. What are you going to do with the liquor and the glasses? What can you even test for?
I don't know. I'll probably test for maybe an allergen. maybe taste the contents of the bottle versus the glass and see if there's something different. Maybe just if we can rule out the drink, then we know, well, maybe he was taking something else. One could ask his wife more about that. She definitely would know if this was, if this was a once-off at least. You don't just react so violently. I think from, I don't know. I'm not a user myself, to be quite honest.
I can tell you
But at least
that
we could.
if he left anything in the bathroom cabinet, the kitchen, or the living room, Marta will sniff it out without Thelma even noticing. My wife is the busiest body you've ever met. And she would gleefully report that to me and the ladies' knitting circle if she found anything of interest, unless it's in his smoking jacket, and she'll never see it. Did anybody hear any of what he was yelling as he ran down the street?
You can all do a listen roll.
No.
That is a pass.
But Tom, I've got a considerable collection of books. Can I disappear into my personal library and look up some of Aristotle's natural world books and see if I can find any references to fungus that look like arms?
Sure.
I mean, Aristotle and whoever else.
As long as you leave the
must
scotch in here, you can look through your whole library.
You
And
do
I
a
rolled-
library roll.
And I rolled
How
a
is-
10 for that listen retroactively.
Okay. Yeah, he was yelling. He was. You got my God. He was yelling that. What is it? You think that he yelled something that sounded like spider? Stay off of me. Get away. And then just screaming, hysterical screaming.
I'm gonna.
And if it reminds you of any kind of drug stuff, it's like bugs crawling all over me, or people who are coming off of alcohol, I think, get the
Yeah, the
More-
DTs.
More with withdrawal, yeah. Okay, this is going to be a bit of a meta question, Tom, but
Okay.
do we get development ticks? And
the game's not
Chance.
going to go on long enough for
No.
you to get better.
okay, I'm going to spend 15 luck to make a regular success on my library use.
Okay.
Um,
We'll say that you might even have. You're in New England. You might even have some books on mushrooms, edible mushrooms and inedible mushrooms, and things to watch out for. There's a whole classification of fungi that kind of look like coral when they grow, that could look very much like fingers. However, they're usually brightly colored, orange and red and pink. Maybe if it faded, don't really know. It might not have been a fresh mushroom.
I'm going to bring the book out and show it to the other guys.
while he does that, because I don't think he's gonna find it in like 3 seconds potentially.
True.
There's a question that came to my mind.
Okay.
Why would you bring a mushroom in a place where there is mostly tropical plants?
Fertilizer.
Yeah, he implied that he ground it up for the chemicals in order to. He's working with various kinds of fertilizers.
So,
That's something.
bearing that in mind, the research I did the other day, did that include anything that would any fungus that was that kind of shape in the formula?
No, you didn't find anything like
No.
that as a component. In fact, a couple of the books would probably tell you that for the most part, most mushrooms are water with very little nutrition value.
Sense, yeah.
They're just fluffy sort of bodies above the ground to disperse the spores. Some of them taste delicious, but they don't have much nutrition. So I don't know. You don't know enough. You kind of get the impression that even if you were a botanist, you wouldn't necessarily know what Corbitt was trying to do. He's experimenting with things that you wouldn't find in books.
Gentlemen, are we still having a get-together tomorrow?
It's 4th of July. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a terrible business.
I guess it'll probably have a little more of a feel of a wake.
Yes.
And
not to be
perhaps we'll forego the fireworks. And I mean, I don't assume that Tom will be coming.
No, I can't imagine.
In a way, the recent tragedy, it will color it, but I don't think it has any other effect.
Yes.
I mean,
well, if that's the case, yeah.
We've got an icebox full of stuff that has to be eaten, and drinks and charcoal that have to be consumed. So,
well, in that case, I'm going to bid you adieu. I want to go and see if I can find anything in this drink, and then maybe try and have an early night for tomorrow. All right, I'll see you then.
Makes sense to me. Thank you for the coffee, Horatio. I hope
thank you.
You all sleep as well as can be expected.
So, Jacobus, everyone else is going to go about their day fairly normally into the evening, and then we'll jump ahead to tomorrow. But Jacobus, you decide to go down to your office with this evidence and do some analyzing.
I just have one question for Horatio before we go.
Okay.
Is Horatio, in your book, does it says that there is potentially a way to, I don't know how to say this specifically, but to condense the properties of the mushroom that could interest Mr. Corbitt?
For a fertilizer point of view, I don't think so. But I mean, I found some illustrations of fungus that may look like an arm, but the color was all wrong. They're normally brightly colored.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I think we're on a bad direction here.
Eugene, do an intelligence roll.
Okay. 55. I spent 5 luck.
Okay.
The red one pass.
You know from cooking that one of the things you could do with a lot of herbs and mushrooms is you can dry them, you can grind them up, and then you use the powder in the cooking because it's far more concentrated when you've got the powder. You've gotten rid of all the water.
Yeah, but it's more cooking. It's not really.
Well, it's a way to concentrate the amount of substance of the mushroom and get rid of the water, if that's what you were talking about. He could take hundreds of mushrooms, dry them out, crush them down, and they'd make a little thing of powder.
Yeah, but from everything that he has, my point is it doesn't make sense. Because he would need a lot more mushrooms than just something that can hold under his arm, like everyday carry. No, it would be something along the lines of the back truck of its car, at least.
Maybe.
So yeah, for the amount of plants he has, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, I see what you mean.
All right, where were we? Oh, Jacobus.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
So Jacobus, do your chemistry roll.
Is not a hard pass, it's a normal
Regular.
pass.
Okay, well, that's enough to get started. The first thing that you realize is that in the bottle and in what was probably Mr. Corbitt's glass, there's just the whiskey. But in Survey's glass, there seems to be a bit of particulate at the bottom of the glass, like almost dirt-like. So you get some of that out and you try to analyze it, and two things become apparent. Whatever it is, it's organic, so it's carbon based, and under a microscope, as you're looking at it, it's more or less indistinguishable. Most of it looks like dirt or looks like some solid substance, but a few of the pieces of this dirt are perfectly round little spheres with projectiles sort of coming off of them. They look like spores of some sort. They're very small, but they're definitely plant spores of some sort.
I look at my watch to see the time. What time approximately would it be?
We'll say this is around, you've been doing this for a while, say about 5 o'clock.
Oh, all right, so it's still afternoon. Well, what I'll do is I'll make sure that I store everything as safe as can be. I think I want to talk to the team first before involving the police in this. So I'll close everything up.
Okay.
Bid Jenny goodbye. Then go home and see if I can see who's around.
Tom, would it be safe to surmise that I've got a good view of Bernard's garden from my house?
Yes, you have a very good view.
And
there's a little hedge between your gardens, but yes, it's only a 3-foot hedge.
From the top floor,
you can see very clearly into his backyard.
And I've probably got a spyglass as used by the pirates of the Spanish Main.
Sure. Your grandfather. Captain Hornblower.
Benjamin Hornigold. He was a real pirate, but that's just a fantasy of mine, of my characters. So I'm gonna do a little bit of spying.
Okay.
Let's see what he's doing in his garden.
Well, this is not his gardening day. But probably around maybe half an hour before dinner time, he goes out into his garden, he picks some vegetables, and then goes back in his house. Looks like he's eating some tomatoes and cucumbers or whatever's growing at the moment. But you don't see anything suspicious. It's funny because you've never really had the inclination to spy on him before.
No.
But only because he's kind of boring. I mean, he just does the same things over and over again. As the sun starts to dip down, however, as you're looking into his yard, you start to see little things moving in his garden. You think it's probably the little frogs are coming out in the cool of the afternoon to go bug hunting.
this is normal behavior for frogs.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what
If
he
the-
has all the little frogs living around his.
Does he have a pond?
No, he doesn't. But you are in New England. You're not very far from, well, the Miskatonic River is just,
Okay.
5 minutes away.
They don't behave unusual, do they?
You don't see anything unusual from him.
No. Okay.
At least not from way up here, from your yard looking into his yard.
Okay. I'll go back to my normal routine then.
Okay. At some point, you probably see him step out of the back door and throw his garbage away, and then go back inside. All right. Does anybody want to do anything else this evening before the next day?
When I reach home, I'm going to give Peter a ring and
Okay.
ask him something if Martha.
Brrrling.
Good evening.
Peter, it's Jacobus here. I'm sorry to intrude again for the day. Did Martha find anything in Survey's house?
I assume, Tom,
She
that
would.
my wife came up with nothing?
Nothing.
Snooping around the house? Yeah.
It's just the oddest thing. I found something in his glass. It looks like a seed or something was put into his drink. It wasn't in Bernard's glass, and it wasn't in the bottle. I think the man was drugged.
Good God. I mean, the police were ready to suspect Talma of poisoning him.
Yes,
But-
that was a bit alarming.
Yeah. But, I'm sorry, you said it seemed like seeds?
There's some substance, yes, or the best I can describe it, or spores or something like that. But there was definitely something put into his drink. Earlier Eugene did ask Horatio about extracting essence of the fungus that they were looking at. I can't remember if that was a poisonous item or not, but I would assume that would be a fluid instead of actual like a seed type.
But there are so many poisonous mushrooms.
That is true.
I mean, okay, so first of all, if the contents of the bottle and the two glasses aren't the same, that is definitely a police matter,
Yes.
right? Because that seems unlikely to be an accident. But then, Talma and he fought, but I wouldn't think that she was anything less than devoted. And Bernard is the most gentle person in the world, to a fault.
That's the conundrum is do I tell the police and then get Talma pulled into the station and interrogated, and where I don't know if, like you say, if they had that kind of a relationship.
From a legal standpoint, of course, you have to tell the police.
No, I agree with you.
They entrusted you with this task specifically. I don't want to see. We might wait until after the holiday, just because it'll make the police's lives miserable and Talma's life miserable and everything harder for everybody,
Exactly.
doesn't it? But can you? Is there some way to preserve the residue that you extracted from the glass?
I locked everything up in my up deck, so everything is sort of in the state I received it.
Mm-hmm.
That should preserve what evidence. I'm pretty sure about that.
I'm afraid that the burden of the decision upon whether to ruin the Independence Day holiday is is on you, because you have, you are in possession of this information that obviously will be of interest to the authorities. Is there any possibility that this was introduced accidentally? It just doesn't seem. I mean, if it's in two,
if it's that much that a residue was left or still in the it didn't get dissolved, all of it, I doubt it. Unless Survey was in such a state that it didn't wash the glass. Then again, I don't know. The other one was clean.
Yeah, and Talma, I'm sure he's never washed a glass in his life.
Possibly so.
Jacobus, do an intelligence roll.
Not on a 96.
I've heard of course, there are plenty of poisonous toadstools. Do they cause people to have panics or heart attack? I don't know how they kill you. I guess I just think of poisoning, when you read a book, it's somebody clutches their throat and they fall out of the chair, and I've never seen it.
Peter, do you have any history or?
I have a bit of history and a bit of natural world.
Yeah, try that. Either one.
Did you roll a 98 or a 96?
96.
Yeah, I got you beat by 2.
Yes, you guys have no idea.
Shocking. I'm quite perplexed.
It just doesn't seem possible in any context.
Yeah.
You know what? I think I'll ring up Detective Whitfield and just share the news with him.
That's right. He can share the moral question of whether to spoil the holiday and so on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you for phoning. It's terrible news.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm if there was anything found by your wife, which would suggest that Thelma is on the up and up. Well, thank you. Yes. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. Very good. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
So you call the detective. This is Detective Whitfield. Who is this?
Harold Whitman, you said.
I'm sorry, I thought Jacobus was calling the detective. He's muted.
Detective Whitfield. It's Jacobus van der Walt here from
the neighborhood. Yeah, not the neighborhood.
Yes. So true. I've had a look at the contents of both the glasses as well as the bottle that Survey and Mr. Corbitt shared. It seems to me that there was actually something that have been put into Survey's glass, into the contents of his glass. Mr. Corbitt's glass is clean. There's nothing in the bottle, and it seems like it's a biological element that was added to his drink.
Like
looks like
strychnine or arsenic?
No, this looks like a plant matter, like a spore fungus or a seed type item. I don't have the enough information to actually identify the element. But I thought I'll ring you up and just let you know. I still have the everything in my office in safekeeping as evidence.
You might want to go over to the Miskatonic Medical Center. Maybe they'll have more sophisticated equipment for you to test.
That's actually a good idea. I think I shall do that.
I don't think that you should, if you suspect that Mrs. Leroy has done something, I don't think that you should confront her with it. Let me take care of that.
Yes, no, I think that's a good idea. I'm quite perplexed about this whole situation. I probably will only be able to speak to someone in a day's time.
Of course.
I would like to just confirm my findings with someone quite external, not so close to the matter. Then I'll let you know.
All right. Yes, please get back to me as soon as you can. I'll call you, in fact, in a day or two.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Right. Click. Eugene, were you saying something? Sorry.
No.
Okay.
Just F1.
All right. So anything else this evening, or are we going to move to 4th of July? Wednesday, 4th of July. All right. Next morning, Wednesday, 4th of July. It's a cool morning, but it warms up quickly. It's one of those lovely, sunny, bright, sunshiny days. People in other parts of the city, of course, are getting ready for a big festival. There's going to be stuff going on in the Independence Square. And your neighborhood is kind of somber for obvious reasons. What would you guys like to do today?
Well, of course, we're Marta and I are arguing about whether streamers are still appropriate of crepe in the backyard. But also we're checking out the neighborhood. Did Talma run off to the mother's house, or is she?
Yes, she did. She went off to be with her family.
The Leroy house is silent, which
Right.
is kind of a relief because,
Yeah.
it makes it feel less insensitive.
That's a party.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're setting up. That was the only standing question I think I had for the morning.
So, unless you guys have something specific, you sit around. It's a barbecue. You enjoy yourselves. You do what you can to kind of block your memory of the previous day with food, and you guys converse about other things. Maybe you converse about what happened a little bit, but.
And what about Mr. Corbitt? Is he quietly puttering at home?
He is staying home, yeah. You haven't seen him out in his yard much.
I'm sure he wants to get that window repaired post haste, but of course he won't be able to get any work done until Monday at the earliest. Which must be driving him mad. He'll probably garden.
I can make a wooden panel for him to make him wait a bit longer, but yeah, that will still feel
He's got a piece
strange.
of plywood up there.
It's been boarding up.
Yeah, if he already has it, yeah, doesn't make sense either. Yeah.
Which he's had somebody meticulously paint all of the contents of his store on the front so that you can't tell there's a piece of wood.
Jakob, do you tell us about your findings?
Yes. It's the oddest thing is there was something in his glass. It's a vase glass. And I'll explain what I found, what I saw. Which reminds me, I spoke to Peter last night just to run some of this past him. I also spoke to the detective, and I'll get another opinion on the contents. The mushrooms that you looked at yesterday in that book of yours, were they poisonous?
Some of them were.
I was thinking about this, strangely.
Well, fungus do produce spores.
Yes. We went from seeing something to nearly calling the man a murderer.
Well, if he was poisoned, and do you think his wife?
I can't. I don't know. I just can't think it.
Mother did warn me of women and their evil ways. Do you think she's
You've
one
got
of those?
Josephine, which you call her evil.
Well, no, of course not.
Exactly. I mean, and Survey never beat his wife, or I mean, I can't remember him humiliating her at all at any point. I mean, they had a scruffs, but I mean, that was just.
If this were an Agatha Christie novel, Survey would have a long-lost twin brother who resented him, who would have snuck into the house and put the poison spores into the ice cube tray, and the ice melted in Survey's drink because he was drinking slowly, whereas Mr. Corbitt just had a tiny tot, and his ice. It's not an Agatha Christie story. It's all ridiculous.
Yeah.
Could these spores have been come from fungus?
That I don't know. I'm going to reach out to the medical institute at the university. You probably know the people there. Do you know if they are? If we could pull some strings and get someone to look at it today, maybe. I mean, it's like fun.
Today?
Push, but at least, well, Peter mentioned that it's the only point where Bernard would get his window fix would be Monday. And I just realized everything's probably closed until then. Maybe tomorrow morning. Do you mind terribly to make a call to?
Not at all. I'm happy to ask some of my colleagues at the university.
Yes, and you know that there wouldn't be anybody there today.
Perhaps in the morning.
Right. Yes.
On top of all this, you need to have some specific knowledge and skills to separate this kind of stuff from the mushroom. So I don't think a random person coming around could do this.
I agree with you. It needs someone with knowledge of plants.
Well, I'm sure it wouldn't be too hard to identify the spores if they're from a mushroom or a fungus.
I agree, but I think what you're saying, Eugene, is that to actually extract something in such a degree that it's as poisonous or have the result that we saw. Yeah,
it's not cooking, it's chemistry.
Well, we know who the horticulturalist on the block is, so if we're going to start breaking things down by specific skill set, I'm afraid of my neighbor across the street. Whereas the entire part of town is in terrors about the mad jackal, and we have flooded sanitaria and misplaced lunatics all over the place. Maybe it has nothing to do with anything in the neighborhood. You know, maybe this is at the tiniest edge of some much larger, I don't know, explosion of the strange.
We lack information anyway.
This has definitely been the most bizarre summer you've ever experienced.
Yeah. It's a quiet neighborhood in a quiet small city being perturbed by the most unusual forms of distress. Nobody in the neighborhood has lost a pet, though, right? Do any of us have cats that go out at night? All cats went out at night in the 20s.
Yeah.
A wooden cat, but I don't know if it counts.
I think
nothing has disappeared in the neighborhood, but you're a little bit isolated from the town proper, and you're not really near Central Hospital, which seems to be where everything was taking place.
So if you were a lunatic who was out of the sanitarium because of the flood and you decided to mutilate small animals, why would you be doing that?
Madness.
Lunatic.
a reminder, I won't make you roll for it, but the animals have been disappearing for about 2 years.
Yes.
The
That's-
lunatic problem is literally 2 weeks old.
And while you all speculate about mutilated pets, I'm going to put on another round of burgers. Jacobus, Horatio, Eugene?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
But Bernard didn't say if he was going to visit or come around.
Oh, he said he wouldn't. And I think
Oh, yes.
even if he'd agreed that he would, I suspect that the events of the last 24
Yes.
hours plus.
Oh, and Peter, let me try and cut a few vegetables. I have to test out the new knife I have in store.
It's handsome looking, yeah. You could trim those bell peppers. I like a grilled pepper on a sandwich.
From where we are at, are we able to see comings and goings in the street?
You're really behind the house,
You can
but
see,
you can on either side of the house. Yeah. And in fact, since you were looking in that direction, you do see Mr. Corbitt's car drive away in the middle of the probably around 11 a.m. You don't know if he's going into town or what. It's a little unusual for him to go out on a Wednesday on a holiday.
So there goes Bernard. And think he'd be going anyway if he didn't join us. Okay,
Maybe he's checking on his shop.
quite possible.
That's the most logical thing I can think of.
where do you suppose he tends his mushroom garden?
Well, he definitely doesn't grow.
Mushrooms. I can't remember seeing any.
They would
the greenhouse-
interfere with his. They would
never-
interfere. Sorry.
He never
Sorry.
talked to us about the mushroom garden.
Mushrooms have never been in his baskets either.
And yet he collects them, even exotic ones, for his experiments.
If he was to grow them, he'd be growing them in a cellar, or
Right, they need
Yes,
dark and
that's the
damp,
word.
right?
in darkness.
Yeah, not in a warehouse. In a warehouse, you're just gonna kill the mushroom.
Actually, Horatio, do an intelligence roll.
Pass, regular.
Okay. You were looking through a lot of mushroom books. You realize that only certain mushrooms grow in caves. Obviously, mushrooms that grow in forests, and truffles grow underground at the base of trees. And so it just depends on the mushroom. He's never put mushrooms in your baskets, so you don't think that he'd need a cave if he was growing those kind of mushrooms. He might
You
be
mean-
able to grow things in the forest behind his house on trees if he was growing that kind of mushroom.
When you say that kind of mushroom, you mean the ones that look?
Like the
Look
kind you
like-
buy in stores.
Oh,
Those are cave mushrooms, but most of the mushrooms you're going to find here in New England are growing out in the forest under the trees. They wouldn't grow in a cave.
Well, same goes for France. Like seriously.
And you also would know that there's literally hundreds of thousands of varieties of mushrooms. Most of them are woody, unedible. And then there's a handful that are edible, and then there's a handful that are deadly.
what about the deadly ones?
They're mostly the toadstooly looking ones.
Fly agaric and
Fly agaric, since you mentioned fly agaric in Europe causes extreme hallucinations.
death.
And well, it can. The Vikings used to eat them before they'd go into battle, and they would not feel any pain, and they would just slice through anything, and they'd get hacked up themselves, but they were having visions of gods. And
I think they needed to be boiled, and then the liquid that they were boiled in to be drunk, or powder as well.
But those are big, bright red toadstools with little white dots all over them. And they do grow in the United States.
The ones that look like an arm with a hand.
The coral looking mushrooms.
Where do they normally grow?
They grow everywhere. Most of those are kind of woody, not really edible, but they're almost always these ridiculous bright colors. If you guys do a lot of walking in the woods, you'll occasionally find some strange, bright pink, neon green, neon yellow or orange thing growing on the wall on a old dead log, and it looks like a piece of coral. Very strange.
Did one of you mention that? I'm sorry to bring the subject up, and I don't want to be a bore, gentlemen, but did he say that it? I'm not convinced that this thing we saw, me and Jacobus, was a mushroom. It was definitely not the right color. I know what I saw.
Yeah, what you saw was pale, almost greenish white.
Right, so let's assume that for all the horror associated with such an idea, that it was human or even animal. Where would you dispose of it? Where would you get rid of that? Use trash cans?
There's acid.
When I peeked into his greenhouse,
Mhm.
did I see anything that resembled Venus flytraps or, carnivorous plants?
Well, I mean, there were some weird looking things in there. You didn't see Venus flytraps, but there were some strange bulbous sort of hanging things from, the rafters and vines creeping up. And
Do you think?
maybe have you ever do an intelligence roll?
100.
Yeah.
I saw the 0 and I thought yes, and then double 0.
You definitely saw something in there that looked like maybe some sort of exotic fruit, maybe a big things like melons, but they were hanging from the ceiling on vines.
I mean, I can only surmise that he uses it. I mean, he's always been trying to perfect his fertilizing techniques. Maybe he's resorted to more macabre ways.
I think that Survey is haunting this barbecue. And I'm not sure there's any way around it. Keeper, is the horseshoe road that we're on two-way or one-way?
It's two-way.
Makes it harder to put a lookout there. I feel like, in addition to what you thought you saw, we can only now assume that our polite, quiet neighbor, Bernard Corbitt, put something in Survey's drink that caused him to have a violent attack. And we're just sitting around picking corn out of our teeth and obsessing over whether he's got a pile of dead bodies in the basement or man-eating plants or poisonous fungus. And it's not healthy.
Well, we can always ask him to show us what's in the in his greenhouse. I mean, he has offered several times.
Yes.
It's true.
And you know, it probably won't harm to have a quick ruffle through his dustbin.
It's amazing what can happen to a civilized neighborhood in a matter of days. Well, go ahead.
That's there for you.
I'm not going to go there on my own.
Jacobus,
Well,
what did the detective say were his plans?
Well, he was going to give me a ring tomorrow to hear if I was able to find out anything about, just get the second opinion. So from the police's side, I doubt there will be anything immediate happening, at least.
Eugene, now I don't remember who was it Horatio and I in the library? Reading
Yeah, I
newspaper
think it was
clippings?
Horatio going to the library.
Sorry.
Oh, the
what
newspaper
was-
clippings.
The newspaper clip.
That was myself and Peter.
Uh-huh.
Sorry.
So yeah, now that we're 2 Long Island iced teas and 2 cheeseburgers in, I'm not sure it's come up, Horatio, Eugene, but do you know how Corbitt's father died? They were traveling overseas together, and the senior Mr. Corbitt, founder of Corbitt Imports,
I think he fell into
plunged to
some
his
sort
death,
of ravine.
being chased by unspecified natives, and only Bernard survived, which is a hell of a way to come into a family business.
And then his wife died. Oh no, his mother died.
And then his mother died, and then his wife died in childbirth. So again, the man is either cursed by the fates or favored by them.
Why would he want?
Money?
He didn't have any siblings, did he? Any rivals to the inheritance?
Nope.
None that you know of.
Only surviving son. Yeah, that's what the paper said, I think.
Maybe egocentrism?
How old was his father?
That would.
It seems rather extreme to resort to such ways if he was going to inherit the business anyway.
He would have at least been in his 50s.
Yeah, and his mother, Olivia, there was only one son. And then, you know, his mother died of grief, which is an interesting thing in the modern world.
At the
Some
old folks home
nunnery.
run by nuns. You know. This is the contemplation phase of the game.
Sorry, viewers.
the most morbid 4th of July celebration that New England ever saw. Well, we can keep an eye out for Bernard to come back and then ask him for a Independence Day tour of his greenhouse and possibly root cellar.
Yeah.
In which case he'll decide that we're mad and he'll sell his house and move. But then we can all relax because I'm a little afraid of him now.
Well, that seems to be the more logical way and thoughtful approach is to wait for the man to come back and take him up on his offer to see the greenhouse. And see what we can find tomorrow.
Are there, on the front of his house, which I can see comfortably from my porch, are there cellar windows?
No, not on this side of the house. All of you have basements. Actually, I think technically cellars don't have windows. Basements have windows, since I recall. But there's definitely access to the cellar on the back side of the house.
Oh, one of the storm door sorts of things.
Yeah, but it's in his case, it's more of stairs going down next to his back door. There's stairs going down to a door down below. So
it's not impossible that he could be growing stuff in his cellar basement.
Fungus. Does my basement or cellar have above ground windows, or is it a similar layout?
It's probably a similar. I don't know. It's up to you. Whatever you want. If yeah, you know what? Maybe he does on the sides of the house. There are probably basement windows. That would make sense. I didn't actually think about it.
I could technically go and see that out since the trap I tried for the raccoons didn't work out.
I will make you a very nice mint lemonade gin beverage if you scurry across the street and see whether he has his basement windows covered.
Well, anyway, I will have to get my box for raccoons out since it didn't work. So you can prepare it. I'm gonna go search it out.
Well, you know what? Talking about those traps, maybe we should just go and remove them. I think the
yeah, I mean, it's more than a week. It didn't work.
Yeah, but more than that, I mean, just the awkwardness about leaving them there with Survey now gone.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
That would be
reminding.
That would be quite a good excuse to visit while he's there. I dread to think what would happen if he turned up while you or us were in the garden.
Again, yes, true.
On top of that, I will be able to make sure to notice everything that went off with those traps. So I only gain everything from getting them back here or at my shop.
It would be a good idea to maybe just go and have a quick look into the windows. If it turns out that he's got something to hide, he probably won't let us get near them.
When I was spying on his garden earlier, did I notice the traps? Were they still there?
Yes, they're still there. No animals in them. The only thing I'll explain to hesitate is you've never seen him leave the house in the middle of the day or morning, except for yesterday when he must have gone at 4 o'clock in the morning. And today, I mean, if he ran out of supplies, if he ran out of food supplies, it's more, if it was a cup of sugar, he'd probably just borrow it. The only time you've ever seen him leave for any length of time is on Sundays. And so if he did have to run for milk or something, he'd probably be back fairly quickly. So you don't have any reason to believe that he'd be gone for a long time on a holiday. Unless he just went for a stress relief.
I mean, it's sort of, a holiday is rather like a Sunday in that regard.
Yeah.
That's the problem. He could be gone for 2 hours or 20 minutes.
Yeah, so that's the danger zone.
That's why I'm sort of daring Eugene to go and have a quick peek through the windows rather than get a shovel out and start digging around in the man's backyard, which is obviously
Yeah.
something that at this point we should be doing with his permission.
Yeah, if I would just take a look, but not touching the thing, or
Yeah, no scratching off any whitewash.
yeah, no signs left.
All right, so Eugene, are you going to try that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then there were 3.
So it doesn't look at all suspicious to anybody on the block because they're all in on it. So you just walk across the street. You're going to walk around the right side of the house, the left side of the house.
I'm gonna decide this with a roll. 1, 2, 3, left. 4, 5, 6, right.
The luck of the
Left.
French.
And go by the left.
Look by the left. Hold on.
I'm gonna regret this, aren't I?
You went on left. Okay. So as you go, there are little windows. They're maybe 6 inches high and maybe,
Okay.
that wide, 18 inches wide. It's dark. You can't, you don't instantly see. When you get down on your hands and knees, you look inside and you see you can see a number of boxes and things like that are stacked up, and do a spot hidden.
92.
Yeah.
It's not a me. It's a miss.
It just looks like a basement, like it's a storage area.
Well, if it's boxes, at least there is the possibility of growing mushrooms in it. But in boxes, it's more gonna be edible ones rather than poisonous ones generally. So,
Well, they look like boxes of things, just in the, accumulated stuff.
the way truffles are cultivated in France are within boxes. So I would know more about this that way. It could be unusual for here, but I mean, I'm introducing this right in like that, and I'm gonna get back the boxes. Logically, I have enough strength to take the 2.
Well, you're just, like I say, it just looks like a normal basement. You don't see anything that would look like organized boxes of dirt that would be growing things.
Okay.
Maybe
I'm not
there's
taking any boxes.
maybe there's a
at,
rocking chair. Maybe there's some stuff like that.
Oh, those kind of boxes.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't make sense. Sorry.
Maybe there's old clothes in the box. Do you want to do anything else?
Maybe I'm gonna take a second look after I get back the 2 traps to make sure if I didn't miss anything. Maybe to push the roll.
Well, say that again. I'm sorry.
Maybe having to try a second look at one of the windows, maybe a different one.
Do you want to push it?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and push it.
Okay.
73. What is it going? Spending 12 luck.
But you can't do that on a push.
Oh, sorry.
You failed your push.
No. That's why I fail by 12 points. This is why
So,
I try to.
Something bad always happens when you fail a push. So you're laying there on the ground, sort of careening, trying to look in. as Mr. Corbitt's car comes back up the road. You see it out of the corner of your eye, but you're going to have to hustle to get the hell away before he sees you.
I'm gonna pretend I'm searching for a piece of one of the boxes.
You're looking for a piece of what?
Maybe a piece of one of the boxes, and
You're nowhere near those boxes, and they're all still in place back there. The traps in there.
Shit. Well,
I can have
I'm gonna get to these boxes and pretend I fall into something, or be more sense.
Do you want him to catch you or not? Because as he's parking the car, you can run so the house is blocking the view.
Any of us?
You could run back into the woods behind the house and then walk all the way back around the road and come back in from the other side like you were going for a long walk. Otherwise, if he sees you, you're going to have to come up with something good.
I mean, if I run, he's gonna think like I'm up to no good or anything like that.
No, he might not see you. You've got the house between you and him.
I prefer him. I know it's a risk, but I prefer him see me. And if he sees me, I'm just telling him I fell. I just wanted to retrieve the boxes to see if they work at traps. I prefer that. I know it might not be greatest idea.
Okay.
But I assume everything.
Are we watching, Eugene?
You're all watch from your window.
Well, we were watching over my backyard fence, and then all of our heads dropped like gophers.
Can we distract Bernard so that Eugene can?
Oh, I could go inside and call him. That might give if he hears the phone ringing.
Well,
that might speed him up.
Let's see if he sees Eugene as he's getting out of his car. He got a 90, so he gets out of his car rather matter-of-factly, walks to his front door and goes inside.
Is he carrying any packages?
He's not.
Okay, I'm gonna go inside and phone him and just say, it's been a weird week. I want to reiterate you're invited. And you guys wave Eugene back over.
All right, so you give him a phone call. Good afternoon. This is Bernard Corbitt. To whom am I speaking?
Hi, Bernard. It's Peter.
Hi, Peter.
I just wanted to. I heard your car come back, and it's been such a strange week. I know that you often prefer to spend. To be in your own company. But given the strangeness of things in the neighborhood in the last week, I thought I'd just reiterate that you're more than welcome over here.
Oh, Peter, you're all very kind. Is it possible? Could you come over here and join me for 10 minutes or so?
Oh, of course. Give me a few minutes to talk my way around and make sure the grill's taken care of, and I'll pop right in.
Yeah, just you, please.
Certainly. I'll ring the front door, or should I come around the side, or?
Oh, just come to the front door. Oh. All right. So Eugene's had his chance to circumnavigate. In fact, Eugene, you could probably go straight back to your house.
Yeah.
From the backside.
I'm not gonna run for it because it's gonna be an indication of I'm up to no good, and if I have the two traps in the hand, I think he will understand that I'm just taking them to. So I'm going for that aspect.
Okay. So you managed to do that without being noticed. So a few minutes go by. Well, Peter, you've just hung up the phone. What would you like to do?
Well, I'm going to go to the backyard and tell the fellows that Bernard has invited me over.
Don't drink anything, for heaven's sake.
I think I might even carry a glass across the street with me so that it's sociably. I mean, I don't know if we've all lost our minds. Maybe it's catching whatever Survey had. But yeah, I'm gonna bring a lemonade over with me and see what he has in mind. If I'm not back in 20 minutes, tell Mart how I loved her.
All right.
It's gonna be fun. It's just Bernard.
Yes, I'm sure it'll be fine. See you in a bit.
All right. So you cross the street. You step up onto the porch, and as you do, Mr. Corbitt opens the front door. Hi, Peter. Please come inside. Thank you for coming.
Of course.
So he brings you in and he closes the door, and there's some comfortable furniture. He says, "Have a seat." But he stays standing. He says, "You guys are very kind, and I appreciate that. This is a picture of my wife," and he goes over to the mantelpiece and sits there and he says, "We used to do so many things, especially on holidays, and every time a holiday rolls around, I can't stop thinking about her. And that's kind of why I don't accept, your Christmas invitation or your Thanksgiving invitation or things like that. It's been very hard, for it's 12 years now. And I just become, I guess, very depressed this time of year. And then with everything that happened yesterday, it's just too much."
I appreciate your openness, Bernard. We don't mean to oppress you with our invitations, but we are part of this community together, and
I appreciate you including me in that. That's very nice of you. I don't think this has anything at all, of course, to do with you. It's me. It's just the way I feel inside. It tends to dominate my life, and I deal with it by going to work, and I deal with it by making sure everything is nice and neat and clean, and I try not to think about it all the time, because I think about it all the time. When he does that, he sort of gestures around as he's saying that he keeps everything neat and clean. Do a spot hidden for me.
6 is not okay. I'll spend 6 for that.
Okay. It's really the first time that you've had more than just casual glance around. He's got a number of interesting things. He's got a curio cabinet that seems to have all sorts of little odd knickknacks and things, and all of them looking very Indian. And there is a large painting on one wall that hangs that definitely looks like, well, it's a frame, and inside of it is some sort of cloth. And the cloth has a very elaborate painting on it, also brightly colored and very much like a Hindu looking thing. And he's got a little stand underneath the picture with a little book on it, which looks very much like you'd have a stand with a Bible on it. Mm-hmm. And the book is open, but it doesn't look like, it looks almost bigger than a Bible. You just notice that there. You notice that that some of the furniture is very elaborate and and Indian in design. And there's a beautiful Persian rug on the floor as he's saying that. Some things that, I mean, you may have glanced at, but you didn't really notice. You've never had a good look in the curio cabinet or anything like
that. Looking around here, Bernard, I can see that you keep some of the things that come across your shop for yourself, the very special pieces.
India is very special to me, yes, indeed.
What was your family's first connection to the subcontinent?
Well, that would have been my father. My father, I mean, ever since before I was born, he was traveling back and forth. He started the business. He started importing things. He thought other people would be fascinated by these very, very different than Christianity objects, and he made a business out of it, which he ran rather successfully for years until he died. And you don't need a psychology thing to see that that's another trigger that makes a concerned look on his face.
I have been a simple and foolish man all my life, and I have been graced not to have yet experienced much grief. My parents are both still alive. I saw my grandmother mourn. She wore black for the last 23 years of her life, and I'm not sure I ever saw her smile after she was widowed. So I understand that these things are different for all of us. Isn't it true in some of the faiths of the Far East that there's a different solace than that of the Christian heaven?
I think that a lot of them believe that there's reincarnation, that people come back over and over and over again. I think there's different. I mean, I've heard people joke about it, like coming back as a goat or a donkey, or, if you're a bad person, you come back as something worse. I don't know. I think I'm more, if I was going to subscribe to it, I think that every lifetime is a lesson, and you're always learning something. So you're always progressing farther and farther up the ladder. They have their own sets of holy books. And he points over at the book that's on the thing. He said, that's the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of their important religious texts. And he points to the painting, and he says that's a depiction of something from the Bhagavad Gita, something that I thought was very interesting. The book's open to it. You want to see?
Oh, certainly.
It's a very strange point of view, but here, take a look at this.
Well, the illustration is very striking indeed.
It's iconography. Everything means something. I don't think that they believe the gods actually have multiple arms. It's all different aspects of the same god.
You're right. They're holding different tools, doing different things.
Right. The drums of creation, the fires of destruction, and so forth.
As they stood poised for the battle, Prince Arjuna hesitated to attack the enemy with his army. Vishnu, in the incarnation of Krishna, encouraged and motivated him by explaining how the universe functions: life, death, reincarnations, Brahman, Maya, and how it is an endless cycle. Prince Arjuna wanted to be understood, so he asked to see Vishnu in his true... he wanted to understand, so he asked to see Vishnu in his true cosmic form. In an instant of time, shorter than the beat of a bird's wing, it all unfolded before his mind. He could see it as no living creature has ever seen it before. The overwhelmed and humbled Arjuna cried out, "Tell me who thou art in such a fearsome form." I bow down my soul to thee, O most glorious of gods. Be merciful, O primal essence. I wish to understand thee because I cannot fathom your intentions. With a thunderous voice like mountains colliding, the Supreme Lord said, I am death, the destroyer of worlds, and today I am out to destroy. What is time or space to me? All your petty hopes and fears are nothing. Whether or not you go to war to me is to me irrelevant. Every man here arrayed for battle will die, they shall all cease to exist. From my perspective, they have already been destroyed by me. I am the universe and I command. All things are one to me. In this place and time, you are only an instrument of my will.
Interesting perspective, considering that there are probably more Hindus than there are Christians. Although that's possibly debatable. I don't know what the numbers actually are.
Makes the Jehovah of the Old Testament seem mild-mannered.
Huh? No. I suppose if you think that you're going to keep coming back, that death isn't such a bad thing. It's just change. In any case, I've collected some of this stuff over the years, but they're trinkets, they're ideas, they're interesting things to think about.
Is the whole book like that?
Pretty much, yes. It's a work of art. This is a translation, of course, but it was made. The English have been in India for some time, so the actual Sanskrit is far more elegant looking, in my opinion. Anyways, Peter, that's kind of what I wanted to say to you.
I appreciate it, Bernard. I should go back and I left Horatio in charge of the grill, and he's probably burnt half of the ribs by now.
Do a spot hidden for me, because you're standing right there.
What is with our rolls tonight? It's so frustrating. 78 is, I can't spend that much.
Well, then all I'll say is you do notice that inside the curio there are some odd-looking items.
Nothing that looks. Is there anything in this room that looks like it's treated animal bone, like pet bone that maybe isn't ancient?
No.
Okay. Then I will go back gently away from Bernard Corbitt in a very polite way, and scurry back to the barbecue.
Yeah. So please, give everybody my feel free to explain that to them.
I will try to make your position clear. I've never really, I admit, and I'm sorry, I've been too insensitive to recognize why you prefer.
It's quite all right. I realize I may be a little bit unusual. Other people probably get over their marriages. Makes me wonder how long it would be before Mrs. Leroy gets over her grief. A year, 2 years. I don't think that they were very happy.
No, I'm afraid you're right. They were a frustrated couple. It looks as though you had a lucky miss yourself. There may have been some contaminant in the whiskey you shared.
Oh, Jacobus found something interesting, huh?
He's sent it off to a lab. He's not sure.
That's awful. I can't imagine. Geez, could you imagine? I mean, if Mrs. Leroy slipped something into his drink.
The detective was suspicious. They have been fractious.
Was it arsenic or
I don't,
strychnine?
this is not, Jacobus is a pharmacist. I think he just found that there was something of note and passed it on.
Well, I suppose if it was arsenic, arsenic is an element. It's not it would be fairly easy to identify. I think it also leaves a rather strong almond flavor or almond smell.
Marta loves Agatha Christie books. I think Bitter Almonds comes up in teacups over and over again.
That's fairly, poisoning's been going on since the beginning of time. And there are quite a few mushrooms that are extremely dangerous.
Toadstools, right? Yeah.
Well, toadstool pretty much refers to any mushroom that looks like from old stories. They're all fungi.
Oh, it's like frogs and toads. They're all one, really.
Right.
And Mr. Corbitt seems entirely relaxed in this interaction.
Yeah, and he's a little sad. But yeah, he seems like he's speculating the same way you're expecting. You can do a psychology roll if you want.
I'll try. I got a 2. There, we got a roll.
It too. He goes on and on a bit about poisons. But he does avoid saying organic poisons or plant-based poisons. He seems to sort of hedge around that.
But he doesn't seem guilty.
He doesn't seem evasive. It may be a little evasive, but not dishonest. He believes what he says.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I don't want to keep you from your party.
I appreciate the time, Bernard. Maybe we should, when it's not a holiday, talk more often.
That would be nice. I certainly have lots of time on my hands. Good evening. And he lets you go. We are past 2 hours if we want to stop there. And it's not exactly a big climax. But that's a good spot to stop and go back and talk to the others.
I was thinking about ending it in a different note than last time by going to see Mr. Corbitt with a little present.
Well, let's do that at the beginning of the next one.
Oh,
You want to do something? All right, go ahead. We got 5 or 6 minutes. Oh, the frog. All right, so let's just say let's play it out like this. Eugene, you end up going after Peter comes back, and you go back over there because Peter didn't get the chance to stop you with the knowledge that he now has. You knock on the door. Well, wait, you walk up onto the front porch. What do you do as you walk up onto the front porch? Knock on the
Looking
door.
casually towards his home. Not really anything
Okay.
suspicious or
All right. So you knock on the front door and he opens up the door. Eugene, what can I do for you?
I was simply soon about to tell you that I've got rid of the traps since they didn't work.
Oh,
And also to give you this.
oh, that's and he probably knows exactly what it is. Yeah, frog. How lovely! You carved this yourself?
Yes, it's. I had some shoots, so I simply try to do something cool with it.
This is really
mean,
good.
It's simple
normally I have
carving,
to.
but done well, as we say in France.
I should see if I can. Why don't you sometime next week come down by my shop and we can talk. Sometimes these things that I get from India need repair work. A lot of them are wood carved, but they get damaged on the ship over.
If I can repair them, if I have the basis of how they work, I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, I think that if you can do this kind of work, you can do something like that.
I mean, that's not really an enormous work. It's more or less 10 hours at best.
We'll talk. I'll have to show you what I'm talking about.
Yes, if I can see what I have to work with, it's going to be complex to estimate how much time it's going to take.
Well, I don't worry about that. I mean, as it is, I can't sell certain things because they're damaged. So however long it takes, we'll just put that into price. I'll pay you out of the commission.
No, don't worry.
Thank you.
Don't worry about it.
Thank you very much.
And then I'll go.
You have a nice party. All right. And that's where we will end the game. Our players included Yusuf Gita, David Gassaway, Chris Van Wyk, and Simon Benfey, with myself as the keeper of the secrets. Hopefully will be back with us next week. We have a Discord server where you can chat with our other members. You can set up private games to learn the finer arts of gameplay and game mastery. There's a link below. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Podbean or iTunes. The costs involved with the show are provided almost entirely by our patrons. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. If you'd also like to help support our show, please visit our Patreon account. Just $1 a month helps us a lot. You can find a link in the description below. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and punch the bell icon for updates on our latest shows. And leave us some comments. We enjoy reading them and answer any questions you might have. This is Tom Rayleigh, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.